Now that we've chosen the right screen for the job, it's time to prep it for exposure. There are a few steps to this process. We'll cover degreasing and coating screens to get the best emulsion layer possible. Degreasing screens is an important part of the screen prep process. It eliminates dust, lint, oils, and other chemicals that could be left on the screens and frames. To degrease a screen, you will need a washout booth or other clean area like a utility sink, a hose with a spray nozzle, a screen degreaser, and a dedicated scrub brush. Degreasing is a straightforward process. It's something you'll do before coating every screen, even brand new ones. First, get the screen wet. Using a dedicated clean brush, scrub the degreaser on both sides of the screen. Make sure to scrub the frames too. It's a good practice to keep scrub brushes separate from each other so each chemical doesn't mix, and label them so they don't get mixed up. Finally, rinse the screen using a hose with a spray nozzle. Now that the screen is nice and clean, it's time to dry it. Use the screen drying rack or cabinet setup in your darkroom. For more info on how to create a good area to dry screens, check out the blog linked in the lesson description. Once the screens are dry, it's time to coat them with emulsion. There are two types of emulsions, dual cure and photopolymer emulsion. Dual cure emulsions, like base layer long lasting, are more forgiving with less than ideal darkrooms or novice printers. They use a sensitizer called diazo that mixes into the emulsion and makes it sensitive to UV light. To learn everything you need to know about using dual cure emulsion, check out the links in the description. Photopolymer emulsion is also known as pre-sensitized emulsion. Emulsions like base layer complete and base layer plastisol are usually a little less forgiving than dual cure emulsion and expose much quicker. Dual cure emulsions will not expose correctly without mixing in the diazo first. To learn more about which emulsions to use for your setup, check out the links in the description. Whichever emulsion you choose, make sure it works with the jobs you're printing. Most novice printers will want to use base layer long lasting. Here's some pro tips about emulsion you may not know. If you want to make your dual cure emulsion last longer, put it in the fridge. This will keep the emulsion cool and stop it from going bad. Make sure the emulsion isn't getting too cold. Emulsion can freeze, and once it does, it's ruined. There's no way to get it back once the emulsion is frozen. For this job, we're going to use base layer long lasting emulsion. Here's how to mix the diazo into it. First, you'll need distilled water. Leave it out so it's at room temperature. You'll also need a wooden stir stick, a paint stick, or popsicle stick works great. Fill the bottle of diazo about a third of the way full of room temperature distilled water. Every emulsion is a little different, so make sure to read the product instructions. Put the lid back on the bottle and shake it well for at least 30 seconds. Once the diazo is dissolved, pour it carefully into the bucket of emulsion. With the stir stick, slowly mix from the bottom up until the diazo is completely combined with the emulsion. Take this slow to keep as much air out of the mixture as possible. Set it aside for 3 hours. Any air that has been introduced in the emulsion needs time to settle out. When coating screens, consistency is key. An inconsistent coat of emulsion will lead to an inconsistent print. To coat a screen, you'll need a scoop coater. This tool has a sharp edge and a rounded edge. The sharp edge creates a thinner stencil, which will lay down less ink, while the rounded edge creates a thicker stencil, allowing more ink to be laid down with each pass. Make sure your scoop coater is clean with no jagged edges or dents. If the scoop coater has jagged edges, you can rip the screen. You can sand them down with fine grit sandpaper or steel wool to make sure nothing will tear or rip the screen. Set the coater on a flat surface and fill it a third to halfway full of emulsion, depending on how many screens you're coating. Keep a wet rag handy for cleaning up emulsion spills. You can make your own coating stand using 2x4s or hold the screen in place on the ground and coat it that way. Either way, you don't want the screen moving around when you're trying to coat it. Start with the outside or the t-shirt side first. Place the edge of the coater against the mesh and tilt the coater up so the emulsion dams up against the mesh. Apply a decent amount of pressure and slowly move the scoop coater against the screen in an upwards motion, stopping at about 1 inch from the frame of the screen. Tilt the coater back so the emulsion settles back into the trough. To lift the scoop coater off the screen, shear the edge of the coater up so it doesn't leave behind any drips. Flip the screen over and upside down, allowing the emulsion to enter the screen from a different angle and create a stronger bond. Repeat the process on the back of the screen. Typically, a 1x1 coating method, once on the t-shirt side and once on the squeegee side, is enough. Depending on the needs of your print, you can do a 2x1, twice on t-shirt side, once on the squeegee side, or 1x2, once on the t-shirt side, twice on the squeegee side. Adding more layers will lay down a thicker ink deposit when you start printing. For this job, I'm going to coat the screen with a 2x1. You want to have a nice, even, glossy layer on each side. Coating a screen is just like any skill. It takes time and practice to get better at it. If you mess up, reclaim your screen and try again. You can only get better from here. Once your screens have been coated, scoop the excess emulsion back into the bucket. Take the scoop coater to the washout booth and rinse it out well. Now that the screen has a good coat of emulsion, let's move on to drying the screen. When drying emulsion, make sure the t-shirt side of the screen is facing down on the screen rack. This will push the depth of the emulsion stencil to the side that meets the garment. You won't have to work against it with the squeegee when printing. Set up fans to blow across the screens to create the best airflow as they're drying. The ideal darkroom conditions for drying screens should be about 75 degrees Fahrenheit and under 40% humidity. Get a hygrometer to keep track of the darkroom, and invest in a dehumidifier to keep the humidity down. Emulsion is dry when it is no longer sticky or tacky. When you touch the corner of the screen, the emulsion should not stick to your finger. Make sure your screen is clean, dry, and has an even coat of emulsion to set yourself up for success. If this isn't the case, you'll need to reclaim it and start again. Creating a good screen is the foundation of a successful print. Now, it's time to head to the exposure step of the darkroom process. Welcome to How to Screen Print with a Kit, the 150 edition. In this free course, I'll be walking you through every step of the process, from darkroom setup to reclaim. I'll be using the Riley Hopkins 150 kit. It has everything you need to start a screen printing hobby or side hustle. Jump in today and get screen printing tomorrow.